to the OC Politics Show, keeping politics bipartisan, local, and on the level.
Welcome to the OC Politics Show. Hey, I'm Joe Matthews.
And I'm Todd DeVoe.
Todd, it's political fun times today. Fun times indeed. Cities are in the spotlight and council members who lead them. San Clemente has a problem with one of their colleagues. Irvine Mike, or we like to call him Irvine Mike, but he's Irvine City Council, Mike Carroll, finally gets his sentence in FlyerGate. Good news, the power of the single vote changes lives. And Costa Mesa and Newport Beach are partnering for the most troubled in society. And now, Todd, I want to say this part for you. Do you mind saying the next part? What do you want me to say?
I got it. With heavy hearts, it's time to say goodbye for now. We had a great time bringing you political news from the Orange County. I love the OC, and but we're not closing for good. We're just closing for now, and so we want to leave you with some of these news stories and some commentary. So, Joe, it's the political whip around,
and now for the political whip around. Yeah, the last one. That was the best one ever.
So San Clemente Councilwoman censored by colleagues.
Irvine City Council approves Councilman Mike Carroll's mailer despite city policy violation.
Just one vote made the difference in Brea's local school board race.
Newport Beach to partner with Costa Mesa for homeless shelter.
And yeah, so San Clemente. So Councilwoman is censored by her colleagues. Yeah, so it's interesting. Do you know what censorship is? That's hard to say right now.
That means they officially tell them that. No.
It's a no.
That's not it.
No. You're right. You're correct.
Okay.
They're basically saying it's a big no. No. You're censored. That's censored like censorship, but it's pronounced a little bit different, and I can't say it because I'm being bad this morning. Anyway, long story short, they basically said that the mayor pro tem is a bad person right now, and so she said some bad things and violating the Brown Act and leaking some confidential city business. Oh, Joe's getting tased. And so anyway, long story short, it's Joe, are you okay? I just wanted to make sure that
I'm fine. I'm fine. Go.
The city council.
HVAC.
So the city council the city council just freaking said you did some bad stuff, and so officially we're going to tell you did bad stuff, and she gets to still stay in city council. She didn't get kicked off, but what it is politically speaking, when she runs for re-election, people could say that she got on the naughty list for Christmas from San Clemente.
So what specifically did she do wrong to make her such a bad, nasty person?
Well, she said some bad things about city staff. Evidently, she broke some Brown Act violations, which actually she can get fined for that, by the way, if the state wants to come down and fine her and the city for that. So, I mean, it is a bad thing to do. And, at the end of the day, she just did a bunch of, she's rogue. She went rogue. She almost did like what Irvine Mike did, stuff like that. Just broke the rules. Because let's talk about Irvine Mike now, because he didn't get censored. He got on the back, said, "Don't do that again."
Good job. Actually, there's nowhere in my range where you got patted on the back saying good job, but there's nowhere in my report that says that no one touched his back. So Irvine Mike, he finally, after months and months of speculation over this $70,000, the city council voted to retroactively approve the $30,000 in spending on mailers on Councilman Mike Carroll. What does retroactive mean to you?
Do you get back pay for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Every time you retroactive anything, it's because you screwed up, right?
yes.
But you know, they only had $40,000 left out of the 70,000. So where do you think that came from? Well, Adriana Mary Shiva, which is the city manager, she stepped in and said, "Hey, we have a fund from last year that has a surplus, so we're not going to worry about that money. Okay, thanks. Moving on." So it's just like interesting how $70,000 can poof disappear within the Irvine City Council and the city itself. Mailers were first sent in September when Councilwoman Melissa Fox filed a complaint with the California Fair Practices Commission, the state's chief campaign finance watchdog, over the $70,000. Now, the mailers didn't exclusively endorse Carroll, but it did have his name and invited residents to town halls, and it did raise his profile. While the city council is allowed to send out mailers, Carroll drew the money from his staff account, which has strict rules governing how funds are being spent. Each city council member receives just over $90,000 a year to pay staff members, and under the city policy, the funds can be used as staff salary without approval of a majority of the city council. Now, Carroll, what he did is he moved from his council aid budget to paid for the mailers. But according to city policy and how the budget works, he didn't have enough authority. He didn't have any authority to do that, which resulted in a policy violation. Now, Carroll spending what's called taxpayer neutral, which because it wouldn't cost the city any extra money, and he chose to furlough his staff to cover costs. Now, this is what I think is interesting. He also told the staff he was never told that he was not allowed to spend the money. So he kind of stupid.
That's what I do. That's what I do with my wife.
Yeah,
like I spend money, and you said you never told me I couldn't spend the money, right?
Yeah, especially on that. Anyway, so Mayor Shee and Councilwoman Melissa Fox, who were attending their last meeting as members of the council, both asked a variety of questions about the mailers. And Melissa Fox said basically that this was an attempt to whitewash. We have tens of thousands of dollars diverted to raise a council member's profile. Carroll and the others. Go ahead.
Wait, I have a movement and I want to start today. I want to outlaw the term whitewash. I find that offensive and racist.
Okay. All right. Brian, do we have a sound effect for that? Probably not. But get this, the council. Oh, I need to find something. The Carroll and the other staff did not respond to their questions. So, Dr. Mayor Shee took aim at the meeting, saying the council should not approve a slush fund. There's another word for it, for council members, that it would limit accountability for the money. But the issue was not discussed broadly by the rest of the city council. So, Todd, it's sad. The Fair Political Practices Commission chose to dismiss the complaint against Carroll surrounding the mailers. Now, check this out. It's my favorite part. And a city investigation will not move forward without council approval. Now, Melissa Fox and she were the biggest roadblocks to Irvine Mike. And guess what? They're gone. They're gone. Next meeting, there's new people showing up. So because of that, that's probably why Mike got away with all this stuff, because there was going to be a majority in the city council to back it up. So I don't think there will ever be an investigation. I think
No.
this is how they fix the problem. $30,000, whoop-de-doo. $40,000, whoop-de-doo. And let's move on, and let's change the rules. Like, Mike wants to change the rules actually, so he can do exactly what he did without being censored or
He didn't get censored.
Violation. He didn't get censored.
Get fired. No.
He didn't get fired,
Clemente,
nothing.
she got censored because she's just, but it's politics, everybody. It's politics. Speaking of politics, in my little town of Brea, talked about one vote counting. Lauren Barnes, she won by a slim margin of 1 vote. And it's amazing. And you know what? I mean, full disclosure, gotta be, I do live in Brea. My kids do not go to the Brea or Linda School District. So I actually didn't have a say in that election. Because I live just outside the Brea Linda district borders. I actually live in the Fullerton School District. So, but my kids also, anyway, they go to private school. So, but so I didn't really have a vote in this thing, but I saw her signs up around town and stuff, and it's kind of cool that she fought for it. She won by 1 vote. It looked like it went back and forth a few times, and it remained a tie, and then boop, 1 vote came up and on a recount, I guess. And she's a youngin'. She got involved. Now, this is the interesting part about this entire case. She got involved over the renaming of Fanning Elementary into Falcon Academy of Science and Technology. And the reason why they wanted to rename Fanning Elementary, right? This is back when during the whole, we're going to go and rename everything that we find offensive in any kind of format, right? Was Fanning, who was the first superintendent and a long-running superintendent back in the 1920s of the Brea Linda School District, was a member. It's a true story. This is not made up. This is not like fantasy or theory, but there's actual photographs and his writings of the KKK. And so they felt that this was not an appropriate name to honor a man who was a member of the KKK. So there was a fight to change the name of Fanning Elementary to Falcon, and that's how she got involved. This young woman is now a sitting board member, or I don't know if she's sitting yet, but will be a sitting board member of the Brea Olinda School District.
Was she an incumbent though?
No.
Was she the incumbent? She wasn't.
No, she was a challenger.
Yep. That's good.
Yeah, first time running, got out there. She's a registered Democrat. I don't know if that means anything because it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but yeah. And that's it. I find it. I'm actually happy to see the newer generation coming in and winning races. I mean, take a look at. I mean, I know we're not talking about this here today. At least it's not on our list. But the whole Santa Ana, not the whole, but the good size of the Santa Ana City Council is now younger. Yeah, so you're seeing the younger people come in with new ideas. Some I could see going well, some I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, it's like some of it's we're rehashing things that we've tried in the past. But it is what it is, right? And it's good. I'd rather see youth come up and do some things. It's my opinion. So Joe, tell me about Newport.
So we have good news. We have good news. I think anytime you can open up a homeless shelter, it's good news. Newport Beach should be able to offer all of its homeless population a space in a new temporary shelter by March. By partnering with Costa Mesa on a shelter that city already had in planning near John Wayne Airport, will gain access to 20 of the 70 beds it's preparing. The Costa Mesa-based shelter will also provide wraparound services. Todd, you know what that is?
Absolutely.
Wraparound services.
We offered that at the First Day Foundation, and it worked really well. So we can talk about that in a second. Go ahead.
including mental health, employment assistance, and to help people move from shelter to more permanent housing. In a 5-year agreement approved last week by the Newport City Council, the city will contribute $1.6 million for initial campaign improvements and then $1 million annually for operating costs, including paying for beds and services. And check this out. Hoag Hospital is also will support services at the shelter with $300,000 a year for the next 10 years.
Nice.
So that's huge. That's
huge.
So the shelter is being operated by the nonprofit, the Mercy House. Just to give you what Costa Mesa provided, Costa Mesa provided $7 million to provide its own 70-bed shelter. The city expected to spend another $4.5 million for permitting, construction, and furniture and fixtures and equipment. The shelter is an existing industrial warehouse in the Airway Avenue. The building is being retrofitted that will include a full-service kitchen, an office, and a lobby. And the shelter will be completed in January, and residents should be able to move in by March. Now, this is where I think, listen carefully to this. A report presented to the Newport City Council in October said that since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, the number of people in the town without shelter had dropped nearly 50%, from a high of 70 people at the start of the year to about 20 people. So the report matches perfectly of what's up and what's available and who's out there. And I always think they grossly underestimate these homeless counts. And when did they do 2 separate homeless counts? One in October, one in January. When did they do this? So I just find that just a little stinky. It's like these 2 cities got together and they solved a problem for a regional approach, but what they're doing is getting themselves out of trouble, because Newport Beach actually had 2 sites available in Newport Beach, and guess what happened?
What happened?
NIMBY. So NIMBY kicks in and says, we don't want you here, and then therefore they find this sweet deal with Costa Mesa getting a percentage of their beds, and now everybody's happy. But it's 70 people. That's it. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just funky to me that they're doing it that way.
And I mean, I get the fact that people don't. Well, first of all, let me kind of rewind here for a second. There are perceived and real issues that homelessness brings to a community, right? So obviously, the perceived issues is that the homeless are dangerous in some way, that crime is gonna spike, things like that. The statistics don't bear that out, where there's an increase in crime. Now, that being said, when we do see an increase in crime specifically associated with the homeless, is when we do see when they do see jail dumps. What it is, like when there's overcrowding in the jails, and so court orders county jails to just release criminals. Well, what the thing is they release the criminals without a plan for them to go anywhere, and they end up homeless as well. So you get that element for a little bit. There's normally a spike in some petty crimes, some car break-ins, stuff like that around those jail dumps. But that's not the chronically homeless necessarily, right? But what you see is that when you have the wraparound services associated with a homeless shelter, you actually see the homeless issues, quote unquote, start to dissipate. Right now, I don't know what their plans are here, but when we were doing the homeless stuff, shelter in Whittier, the rules basically were you have to vacate the shelter between, I think it was like 8 in the morning to like 4 in the afternoon, something like that. There was a time because they had cleanup and things like this that had to be done. And it also stops the clock on residency. So there's reasons why you have to do. There's legal reasons why you have to do this, right? Which is too deep for this right now. But anyway, point is that's why they did this. And then you came in back in the next day or that evening, and you could re-register for the thing. I think you could register for it was like 10 or 12 days or something like that. And every 12 days you had to re-register to live there. Now, that being said, you were the only criticism that we got working through the First Day Foundation was this thing called creaming. And what this is it's grabbing the success rates go up because you take homeless people that are looking to be fixed. And I hate the word term fixed. I'm sure somebody's going to blast me for that. But what it is, it's those that aren't heavily medicated. So they don't have drugs or alcohol issues, or if they do, they want to stop. Right. And so they go through counseling, they go through drug rehab, they go through alcohol classes, whether it's 12-step program. And we actually worked with a local hospital as well, which we're doing with Hoag Hospital as well, to provide those services. And it really worked out really well. And when I was a parks commissioner, working with the First Day Foundation, we really cleaned up our parks as far as the homeless issue goes, right? Because they had a place to go. They could store their gear, their stuff places. They didn't have to carry everything around. They had a place to get services. They had a place for their checks to go to. They had a place for to take a shower. They had a place to sleep at night. They weren't sleeping in the parks or in somebody's doorstep. And I think it was a really good system. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they had someone like Patrick drive around looking for it and bringing them back to the shelter, responding to people's calls and concerns. He would show up and facilitate intake right there and bring them back to the thing. And you don't see that. You don't see that very often.
And the other thing too is with the First Day Foundation, what they ended up doing is buying a couple of hotels, apartment complexes, and then they were able to transition people from the streets to an apartment, and then we were able to fund people's first and last month rent, security deposit, at apartments as well. Right. So the process wasn't just literally warehousing homeless people like right. It was processing, getting them into an apartment at some point, getting into jobs, job skills. And I mean, it's just amazing some of the stories success stories that I have. Again, the only criticism is that the First Day was not taking the super hardcore guys and gals that did not want help, right? In other words, they weren't, some of the schizophrenics, and it is what it is, right? I mean, it's no bullshit. It's so some of the schizophrenics who were refusing to take medication, things like that, obviously couldn't get through that system, right? Because they just can't go through the system, right? Now, not that they wouldn't provide services for them, not that they wouldn't give them food, not that they would let them take showers and be able to be clean, but those weren't the success cases. And so
they couldn't follow the rules once they got to the shelter.
Couldn't follow the rules, right? Yeah, have to follow the rules once you get in the shelter. All right, and that's one of the issues is that some people just don't follow the rules or don't want to follow the rules, and that's why they're homeless as well. So there's it's a step in the right direction, I think. You're right. There's a NIMBYism. It seems like putting them into warehouses is the thing that goes on right now. But again, at the same time, I can't fault the people of Newport Beach that don't want to have the homeless shelter down the street from their multi-million-dollar homes. I mean, it's just there's issues there, right? But at the end of the day, what do we do? You need to help them, so Anyway, I'm off my soapbox again. So
Okay. Well, this report that they said had many homeless people and families were able to stay in hotels as a part of the statewide initiative known as Project Room Key. Newport Beach Police Department, city departments, and other local groups who work together to place some people in sober living facilities and other supportive housing. Homelessness itself will not stop at city boundaries, so a regional approach is important, said Newport Beach Mayor Will O'Neill, who, with Mayor Dixon of Costa Mesa, helped negotiate the agreement with Costa Mesa. We will be able to help people exit our streets, but having a shelter of significant resources is a major step in the future. So I give a round of applause for city cooperation and working together to solve problems. But I just, like I said, what happens when 25 people are homeless? Do they have a bed for them? Right? They just perfectly got it at 20%, at 20 beds. They didn't plan for any future. It's like, it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. It's going to get worse.
Move them into Laguna Beach.
Yeah, it's nicer there.
They have
all the fun people.
Yeah, all the cool people live in. Anyway,
Todd, that's all I have as far as this is concerned.
Well, you know what, Joe? It's always been a pleasure to speak with you on these political and sometimes controversial, sometimes not things. And the political season ending, we're moving into the holiday season right now, so we are going to take a hiatus for a bit. And you know, look at everybody. I just want to kind of leave you guys with this, and I'll let Joe wrap it up completely. I do appreciate your time that you spent with us here on the OC Politics Show. And in addition, you know, as we move into the holiday season, please remember that everybody that lives here, you know, we are all, hopefully, we're all on the same page as Americans. I know that we have a lot of political divide going on right now, and it can be bad at times. But I hope that we can treat each other with respect, at least, even if we don't agree with each other's opinions. And that was kind of the idea of the OC Politics Show, was to show what's going on here in Orange County, and at least getting other opinions out there and respect each other. And at the end of the day, we are all residents of the OC of the Orange County. Joseph.
Yeah, I've learned so much. Todd, thank you for the opportunity to let me do this with you. Producer Brian, thank you so much for all your lessons of love, and also helping me with the radio show. But I just gotta say that it's been a trip, because we interviewed a national candidate for president of the United States. I thought that was an amazing high point. I brought my daughter in to talk politics. So I've had some pretty interesting highs that I really appreciate. And I hope that collectively we can come to the OC Politics Show to share our differences and to learn a little bit about each other, so we can take the fight out of people sometimes. You know, once you know somebody, you don't really want to pop them in the head if you know them and understand them. So Absolutely. That's all for me.
Producer Brian, take it away.